My dad was a union guy. He was a third-generation electrician, I guess with the last name of Powers, when it was like the perfect sort of, occupation for my granddad to get into. And so actually my dad, my grandpa, and my great-grandfather wired many of the houses in Oberlin, Ohio as Powers Electric. And so my dad's family were, if you've heard my talk about the Oberlin Rescuers, my dad's family were abolitionists. They came to the United States in the 1600s as pilgrims and moved into northern Ohio right in time for the Underground Railroad to start in Oberlin, Ohio, and were very prominent in that field. And one of my ancestors was actually arrested as an Oberlin rescuer for standing up for the rights of John Price, a fugitive slave. And so I come from a long line of people who have been fighting for the common man and woman and fighting for equality for generations. I had a great aunt who was involved with Margaret Sanger and the suffragette movement in the 1920s and was actually arrested as a suffragette. My grandmother ran for the school board in the 40s, and my dad was a strong union guy in the 60s. And so I have a lot of people who are not shy about standing up and saying what they believe and fighting for what they believe in. And so that's my background. My dad was a big influence on me when he was a steel worker. I saw my parents, although we had a very modest blue-collar household, I saw them have things like paid sick leave and paid vacations and a good wage. And my mom's got 3 pensions. She's 91. She's got 3 pensions because both of them worked in factories with unions. And we don't have that today. The average blue-collar worker in Arizona doesn't have what my parents had. My parents' house was paid for by the time I was a senior in high school because my dad's a steel worker. So what I want to do is I want to fight for the common man and continue that legacy. And Raul Grijalva talks about his dad being a copper miner. So as a young man, Raul would go to the meetings and translate for his dad from English to Spanish so the Mexican copper miners would know what was going on. Well, I have a similar story because growing up in northern Ohio, my dad worked in South Lorain, which is a gritty factory part of town. And Lorain is called the International City because there are hundreds of nationalities in Lorain, and they all work together. They were all in the union. And, my dad comes home one night and he says, can you read this? You're taking Spanish, right? And I said, yeah, I can read it. And he said, I have to defend this guy tomorrow, and I can't read this because he's written his grievance in Spanish. Can you translate this for me? So I was on the other end of the translation string from Raul Grijalva because I was helping my dad defend the Puerto Ricans and the Mexicans who were working in the factories in northern Ohio.